Preparing live stream, and we're live. Welcome
Hey, we're live.
of the Live Clean and Fight Dirty show with your main host, John Hackleman, and your co-host, me, Angelo Ferrer. As you saw in the title, the benefits and challenges of MMA in the dojo. MMA training modalities are a great way to upgrade your martial arts system, but what are the pros and cons of introducing MMA to your martial arts program? If you're running, let's say, a karate school or a wrestling program or a jiu-jitsu school and you're not introducing MMA training modalities for whatever reason, but you want to do it, what are some of the challenges you're going to face? Well, who's the best person to ask? But John Hackleman. So, what's going on? Let's start with everybody. I want to say a lot of people off the top of their head on the internet can think of a lot of pros. But what are some of the challenges you think people are going to face when they try to do this?
The challenges would be a lot of the challenges would be the skill sets. Like um, you have to have the all of them that or access to skill sets, right? So like just because you put an MMA like American Top Team, I'd say 95% of the fighters don't just have one coach. A lot of them have a head coach, which oversees, it's like the contractor, right? But then we're the contractors, but then you got plumbing, BJJ, we got, striking, like that would be like your electrician, that would be striking, right? So you're reaching out for all these drywallers, that could be your wrestling guys, and then you want a groundskeeper or some someone that does the landscaping, that could be like your strength and conditioning coach. So you're like the main coach has to know all the things that are going on, but they want the specialists to come in too. And some guys are just the specialists. Like I was a little of both. Sometimes I did everybody's stuff, but then you know sometimes I'd have some wrestling guys come in and some jujitsu guys come in, and the main two I always did. So I'll do everything, but the ones that I feel like I specialize would be strength and conditioning. That was definitely one of my strengths, and the striking. You know, then at wrestling, I got to be very good at defending the takedowns, but then we brought in takedown guys, and then jujitsu. My specialty is getting off the bottom, but then we have guys that focused on attacking from the top, attacking from the bottom, etc. So getting your all your skill sets figured out, because you want to give your fighters or your competitors the best possible training. So the getting good instructors is going to be one of the main things. Okay, time the time schedule for your dojo. Sometimes the dojo is already every time slot is already taken in your dojo. Maybe not. Maybe like we have an hour right now. Just came up because we closed the class because school's starting. So we stopped our teenage class. So now we have an hour. So we're going to decide what to do with that hour. So if I didn't have an MMA class already, a team, I could have put them there. So the time is important. Scheduling them, the space obviously, is another huge challenge. And here I'm going to tell you my biggest con. It's not even a con. It was a challenge. It's a challenge. But my biggest challenge was public perception, because the more well known we became, the more people didn't want to come, and that's good. That's counterintuitive, and it's not like that in most gyms. But since I had such a strong family, family presence, kids, women, guys that are doctors, lawyers, not teachers, not necessarily tough guys with tap out shirts and stuff like that. We're in a very nice area. You know, it's not a rich area, but it's very nice, low crime rate and really nice area. So public perception, the more we were in the paper, the more we were on the news, the more we were out there, the more people saw people getting hurt because our thing was the MMA, Chuck knocking people out, Glover choking people out, you know, stuff like that. So then they're seeing that, they're saying, whoa, do we want to bring our kids there? That seems kind of rough. Oh, do I want to go there and get the shit kicked out of me? Let's go to the little laundromat karate down the street, and I can at least pretend I'm learning martial arts. And maybe I will learn a little bit, but it's going to be safer. Our biggest challenge in MMA, in running a traditional karate martial arts school, was public perception. They were scared. I had people coming in all the time. They'd come in and they'd try a class, or the kid would try a class, and they'd be telling me or my wife after, you know, wow, man, it's a family. You have such a great family feel here. Man, I feel like I'm right at home. But man, for the past, 5 years, I've been driving by this place, and every time I drive by, I speed up because I think there's all kind of violence going on in there. I mean, if watching the papers and the news, and knowing what you guys do in there, we just pictured a bunch of fences and barbed wire and people fighting to the death and shit like that. So the name The Pit and my logo didn't really help that, but it was my biggest challenge to get the family. My wife is more involved in that. She's more responsible than I have been, getting the family feel out there and taking away the rough and tough feels. Because when you have a fight team, people think of tap out guy, tap out shirts and want to be tough guys and stuff like that. So they didn't want their kids to be bullies just because they didn't want to be bullied. And they thought if they went themselves, the parents, they would just get the shit kicked out of them by some guy that looked like Chuck Liddell. So that was a huge. I mean, it's a real challenge, a really big challenge, and a really, I'd say expensive one. I think because of that, we probably could have maybe 30-40% more students if it wasn't for the public perception that we're more of a rough school. Even though 97% of everything we do inside of this building, 97% has to do with martial art, traditional family values, traditional family training, traditional martial arts where nobody's beating the shit out of each other, nobody's fighting in a cage. It's a traditional martial arts school. And then 3%, I mean, my regular students aren't even here. I train the fighters at noon. My regular students don't even start coming in until 4 p.m. The fight team is long gone, mopped up, and they're gone before the family, come in. So just that fact alone is something to think about, and it shouldn't discourage you, but just realize if you really want to have an MMA team running your dojo, it's gonna give you a lot of like spirit, like a lot of pride. A lot of the students love it because at their gym there's people training for MMA, and some people love it, and it brings them a kind of a feel of camaraderie and stuff like that. So that's one of them. It definitely increases your credibility if they see that what you're teaching is actually taking people into a cage against other trained people and they're doing well. Imagine what they could do for my son, because now nobody's gonna pick on them anymore. You know what I mean? And probably the biggest benefit I've ever gotten from my MMA training, and my MMA involvement, as a martial artist that focuses on self-defense and anti-bullying, the biggest benefit I've had in this martial art MMA is it's a proving ground. It's a testing ground. So all the techniques we're teaching, this is our bunkai right here. It's our bunkai. Like some guys do all these little techniques, and then you say, "How does that work, instructor?" Oh, that's bunkai. You know, when we do this, it really means that you're doing this, and then when we do this, it really means that you do this. So you just have to use your imagination, and you have to, the bunkai your way. You just gotta. It's kind of like when somebody's writing in code. You have to be able to decode it before you can read it. Well, guess what? We don't code anything. We don't bunkai anything. It's right there. It's in block letters. So they can watch my guys doing the stuff that they're learning, and they don't have to try to imagine or fake what's really working. They can see it right there. It gives the instructor and the system credibility. And Kaji Kempo shouldn't need any credibility, you know? So this is just one way to show that what you're teaching your students is being effective out there in the real world. Because if it works in a cage against a trained fighter, it's going to work in the street or the schoolyard. So the main benefit, the main pro of having an MMA school or an MMA team or an MMA class is credibility. Gives you credibility. Bing. What do you think?
So there's a few things you mentioned here. And one of them sounds like, oh yeah, and for anybody watching, if you have any questions at all about how to run an MMA school, joining an MMA program, we are open. It's live. We are live right now. So if you're watching this and you want to ask any questions to John Hackelman or me, to some degree, I don't know why you want my opinion on this, but if you want to have any questions, please ask, and I will pass them on and ask John.
Yeah, let me reiterate that. If you're out there and you're watching this and you have a martial arts gym or you want to open a martial arts gym and you want any advice on how to actually run a MMA school or an MMA team and a traditional martial arts school at the same time, you know what I mean? I'll give you advice. I've been doing it since 1985, and I've had some of the most successful MMA teams in the world. Not in my county, in the world. I've had some of the most winning fight teams in the world, and that's proven. And I've also been training thousands of traditional martial arts students that have gone on to get much more confidence, win schoolyard scuffles, gotten jobs they might not have gotten without the confidence, finished college because of the focus and the discipline that has taught them along the way. So we've had all of that, and it's definitely doable. It really is, but it does take some work.
So here's a question. I've been talking to people offline because of last week's announcement. For those of you that don't know,
Yeah.
Seminar coming up, the KSDR seminar, open to anyone. Actually, I was talking to those guys. It's not just Kaji Kembo guys. If you're interested in going to a seminar this Friday and Saturday, Saturday's the tournament, Friday's the
Yeah.
and John Hackelman will be there live doing drills, hands on. If you want to go to Vegas, check it out. KSDI tournament. You can Google it and it'll come up. One of the things that some of the people that asked me was their concerns running a traditional school that focuses in self-defense, and they even compete in kickboxing at times. This one person in particular, I'll keep anonymous in this case. And they were saying that when they tried to introduce MMA, they always did MMA training modalities, but when they started getting the fight team, into the actual cage, that their attitudes changed. The fighters' attitudes, their students' attitudes changed, and they became more aggressive, more competitive, and they almost started to try to copy personas like not great personas either, like McGregor. They started talking shit and trying to promote their fights, and the coach didn't like that. Didn't like that his students were trying to get public attention by kind of creating like a pro wrestling type of character, like a Conor McGregor type. How do you avoid that? Because I know I immediately when I was having this conversation with the person, I said, "Well, John's never had that problem," and then I started thinking, "Well, how did you avoid that problem? How did you avoid not getting wrapped up by all that media attention and all the entertainment side of all this?"
I think it's the coach. Like some coaches, I notice their fighters, they let their fighters just fucking say all kind of bad shit, and they allow that. I mean, you being the coach of the team is like the sensei of the traditional classes. You have to have the same, you have to, have the same authority over your team. My team is just every single bit as respectful as my fighter, as my traditional students. I mean, and if I mean, if I was to name three of my more outgoing, maybe cockyish guys, it would be guys that are in my regular class. But if they hit a certain level of cockiness, oh, it's always been the case, they're out. They're out immediately. Anybody that bullies other students, first of all, they get a beating usually, then they're out. And that my fight team is like the gentlest guys that want to help everyone. And if they ever train with someone that's not a fighter, they're gonna go overly. I gotta say, you gotta give them some work. So, but they don't want to make sure they don't want to hurt anybody because they know that they're fighters and these guys are doctors, lawyers, teachers, etc. And they just want to learn. So if you're I know there's going to be a terrible person here and there or a really cocky person here and there. They have to be put in their place immediately, and if they're not, then they need to go. Um, but but you know, even more than that, um, the coach has to keep that going. Once in a while you're going to get a guy, and they got to learn right away that they got to behave a certain way, or they're out. But it's on the coach. The coach has to be the coach. Like when I see these fighters, acting so cocky and crazy and throwing, punching and stuff, even at the weigh-ins, the coach is failing. You're failing, and it's true that might happen one time. Maybe that's your fighter, and it happened. You never thought it would. Then boot. I mean, he should be gone immediately. But if you have the fighter that's doing that all the time, and you haven't put him in his place, you're a shitty coach. You're just not a good coach. You know what I mean? If you allow that type of behavior, could you imagine Chuck or Glover or Court McGee or Ramsey Newsham or any of those fighters, you know, like hitting the guy extra or mouthing off, throwing stuff at a guy, throwing things through the bus? None of my guys would even imagine doing that. It's crazy. So my answer to that is the coach has to be the coach. And if he's not, he should step aside and let someone else, because the coach should be more than just technical. He should be the mentor, right?
So if I understand correctly, you have to nip that in the bud before the person even gets to the point where they're
I'll,
where
I'll give you one. I'll give you one. Okay.
they're
If there's a guy in my regular classes that I feel is a bully and I feel he can learn from this, maybe I don't think he's all the way gone, but he's a bully. And every time, I try to stop him, but I notice he still does it. He comes to train with the fighters then. I make him train with the fighters. Whether I have to set up a couple fighters on his schedule or I make him come to the fight team, he's going to spar with some of my fighters. And then he's going to find out real quick, whoa, I don't like when other people are. And the fighters know what's going on. They know they want to break the bully. They want to stop the bully. They're not gonna put him in the hospital, but they're gonna show him that, hey, this is what you're doing to other people. How do you like it? So he's gonna find that out real quick. And then when he's done, I'll say, hey, how'd you like that? Not too fun, huh? Well, that's how the people that you're bullying feel. Because just because you're more skilled, bigger, stronger, whatever than somebody, you shouldn't be doing that. And that's how it feels. So next time you do bully someone, you're going to be training with the team even more, and I'm going to give them a thumbs up next time. So anyway, so that's it. Kind of takes care of itself, and it always has.
And then, here's another thing that came up too. A lot of the quote unquote traditional martial artists, I use this term very loosely, do not like the MMA culture. Obviously not at your gym, but in general, the MMA culture where the fighters are constantly talking shit on the internet, tweeting, starting trolling each other, being disrespectful to each other to try to promote a fight, that kind of stuff. And your guys have never really engaged in this kind of behavior, but a lot of other fighters have, right? So is this like a conversation? I'm still like, how do you have a conversation with them about this kind of stuff? How or is this just that comes out naturally because of what you just talked about? Because you're physically doing it, then psychologically they just don't even go there because they know it would bring a bad name.
No, because I think if you do that within purpose, within parameters, I think the only way your school, first of all, the students, the traditional students and the fight team shouldn't be, or should seldom be training with each other. Usually it's a different time. Sometimes the two never even see each other. So I don't know, following them on social media, I've never had a fighter that bad mouths or big mouths. And if there was, what the culture of your gym is dictated by the culture of the instructor, of the owner, of the sensei, of the kumu, of the whatever. That's who dictates the culture. Our gym has the same culture it did when Chuck was at the top of the ladder. There were more press here before, and there were more people in and out, just to get a glimpse of Chuck here and there. But our culture has never changed. You can go back years and see our old videos of belt testing was the same, belt ceremonies were the same, our Christmas parties were the same, our classes were the same. The culture of the pit never changed. We just got a little more popular on the MMA side. Now we're much more popular on the traditional martial arts side, but we still have some goings on, in the UFC and MMA. But the culture of your gym, if it's being dictated by your fight team, you got a shitty coach or a shitty instructor. He has to. It's more the other way. And in other words, my fighters, they get belts. My fighters have to abide by the same, bowing on the mat and shit like that. My fighters have to, they know they're in a martial arts gym. My fighters have to know that they behave like they're in a fight. I'll tell you another gym like this versus what I've seen. American Top Team, American Top Team. You got a couple hundred fighters, but you go in that dojo. Yes, they're saying yes, coach. Instead of sensei, they just changed sensei with coach. And that's what most of my fighters call me. Yes, coach, no coach. And then most of the students are yes, kumu or yes, pitmaster. But the culture isn't any different. And it shouldn't be. Like I said, my fight team is the culture of my fight team is more like a traditional martial arts school than the culture of my traditional students are MMA. Now, when my guys get in the cage, it's all about fighting, but they don't carry on that type of tap out, wannabe tough guy mentality thing.
So there's your answer for the people who asked me that question. Well, we are getting towards the end here. We don't actually have that many questions from our live viewers, just mostly comments. Jimmy Vox, you got to fight for your right to love 80-year-old strippers. Ha ha ha. Just kidding. I love the show. Thanks. Jimmy. Zen Baron. Saw the Tai Chi master versus the MMA fighter. That was funny. Yeah, there's a lot of those videos going around. And that's about it. Anything you want to wrap up with there, John?
No, just all you guys out there, check out our seminar at the Westgate Hotel in Las Vegas, and I'll be there. I'll be there Friday, Saturday, and I'll be there at the tournament, and I'm going to be there doing a seminar on Friday morning. So you just go to tajikempo.com and check it out, and we're gonna be there. You know, bang.
And then I'll also add, John's super approachable, so don't be shy. You know.
Yeah. But what I'm going to be teaching mainly there is just this is Kaji Kempo specific in this tournament. I mean, in this seminar, but the same thing applies to any traditional martial arts school. Is how can you what are the secrets or the tricks or the what else they call it nowadays? The the hacks. They call a lot of things hacks. Like, what are the hacks of running? And my last name is Hackelman, so this fits. We should think of something for that, like the hacks of something. Okay, but how to run a martial arts school and a fight team at the same time, and it's very doable, and they're very they go side by side, a lot. And then some things not as much, and then some things even more, and most of it is just right about here. They're both about the same: how to run a school versus how to run a fight team. So it's doable if you want to do it. I want to help you, and bing, that's it.
All right. Well, this has been another episode of the Live Clean and Fight Dirty show. Don't let anyone take your lunch money. Every Wednesday at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, your time to ask questions to John Hackelman. Don't forget, you can check out thepit.tv. There's still slots available if you want to train at the Pit on the online course. You can work your way through the entire belt system. If you want to audit the class for less than 2 cups of coffee, for less than the cost of 2 cups of coffee, you can audit a class. And when I say audit, let me make this very clear. It means you actually get to train. It's not like you're watching some sample video or, he's only going to show you 2 minutes and then you got to pay more money to watch the rest of it. It is full access. You get to jump in. You can put on some exercise clothes, dogi if you got it, and you can train right there live with them. It's a live stream of what's happening in the class. So please, if you haven't checked it out, thepit.tv.